View. We're now going to be calling upon Professor Lawrence Krauss to come back on that with his presentation, which I don't think is going to last more than 25 minutes, I'm sure of that, but just to let you know, some of you who perhaps don't know anything about Professor, he's a renowned cosmologist and a science popularizer, and is the foundation professor in the School of Earth and Space Exploration, a director of the Origins Project at the Arizona State University. He's hailed by Scientific America as being a rare public intellectual, and he's also the author of more than 300 scientific papers and 9 publications, books, including the international bestseller, The Physics of Star Trek, and his most recent bestseller entitled A Universe from Nothing, now being translated into 17 languages or more. Professor?
Which sounds good. It's not the way we learn about reality. Okay? Deductive arguments just don't work. They lead to irrational actions. In fact, if we discuss what common sense is taking your beliefs to conform to the evidence of reality so that you will make rational actions. If you force your reality to conform to your beliefs, you will make irrational actions. So you can deduce things based on your beliefs, on your a priori beliefs, but you'll have a problem. For example, your a priori belief could be that if you prayed to Allah, that you could jump out the 4th story of this window of this building and you would land safely. Okay, that could be an a priori belief. And in fact, you could deduce based on all your beliefs and all of the evidence that you're a good person and Allah would take care of you, or whatever you want to call it, that you'd be fine. I would take the elevator down and only one of us would be walking at the end. That is not deductive. It's based on empirical evidence. Said, common sense, our deductions might suggest that you cannot be in 2 places at once. That is crazy. But of course, an electron not only can be, but it is. What's amazing to me is you quoted Aristotle as the basis of science. Of course, Aristotle was the one that told us objects fall in proportion to their weight, because he actually didn't do the experiment. Time didn't exist before t equals 0. So if time doesn't exist at all, the sense of cause doesn't even make sense. Tells you that homosexuality is wrong, except some self-proclaimed prophet telling you with no evidence.
There's a book with 0 contradictions, with miracles that are both scientific and historical, all revealed over 1400 years ago, like the detailed description of the human embryo.
The descriptions of the human embryo in the Quran cannot be based on scientific knowledge in the 7th century.
To the mountains as pegs holding firm the earth below, and the 2 seas that don't mix in a complete separate flow, to the planets in orbit, alternating night and day as they stay in flow. The expansion of the universe and the creation of everything from H2O. To the stories of the past and the preservation of Pharaoh. To identifying the lowest point in the land where Persia defeated Rome. The gushing fluid that created man in the glands between the ribs and the backbone. And not a word has changed, it's still the same. So please explain how all this was known over 1400 years ago. To a man who couldn't read or write as he would recite whatever the angels spoke.
The point is, the universe, our visible universe, did have a beginning because we can measure it. Whether we liked it or not, or whether we think it's sensible or not, it actually did have a beginning, a factor not in dispute. Our universe had a beginning. I actually input in a computer a lot of Arabic words and asked them to produce it at random, and I produced two sentences from the Arabic in from the Quran in 11.6 seconds. My computer speaks neither Arabic nor is Arab, but produced that those incredibly divine words. Now,
my positions.
Okay, let me take a more clear example.
You're straw-manning my positions.
Say you're a homosexual man.
Yes.
And you have sex with another homosexual man. Should that be subject to punishment?
In the private home.
Okay, let me ask you another question. Is homosexuality wrong?
In the Islamic tradition, it's a sin.
Okay, now here's an idea of why common sense should tell you that Islam, like many other religions, is not common sense. Because, of course, homosexuality is perfectly natural. In all animal species, almost, it's natural. It occurs with a 10% frequency. Okay? In fact, there are good wisdom and learning comes from observing the world around us. And we shouldn't take our...
Now, you used the word a priori more than 3 times, but you rejected deductive thinking. I mean, isn't a priori deductive? I mean, you can't have your cake and eat it, sir. Do you have a book? Okay, do you have a book on Sharia law?
No.
And you make judgments, and okay, I have a book on atheism. I think it's based on nonsense.
Great.
But I give you the intellectual epistemic respect to read your worldview. But you've come here
my book is a book on
blasé,
atheism. It's
sorry,
a book on science.
you've come here blasé, almost arrogant, I don't want to judge you, and saying, you know, it's all rubbish, I'm not going to take any of his arguments, I know better than you, which you said that, and I do agree in physics you do. And you've come here making judgments on Sharia law. You don't even have a book on Sharia law.
That's why I asked questions.
Let me ask Professor Krauss a question. Why is incest wrong?
It's not clear to me that it's wrong.
Okay.
It's clear to me. There's an evolution. Book. So the explanation of a universe that could come into existence from nothing without any purpose, without any planning, without any reason, is explanatory. Now, lest I be misconstrued, that is just plausible. Because we do not have a full scientific theory. But to make the claim, as I know you've often made, that because that there are certain things we will never understand, is to misunderstand science. There are lots of things we don't understand today, and that's the reason to go out and do science. It's just...
I like to make.
No, there's you see the photon that's lighting you up from that thing?
Yes.
It didn't exist before it was emitted by the electron.
Yes.
Okay? It didn't exist.
Yes.
It wasn't there.
And you're saying there's no cause?
It wasn't, you know, point is, yeah, I'm saying this, what I'm saying is t equals 0, you require time. That's absolutely true. The presumption that you require time at t equals 0, if you took the equations as they're written, time would go out the window.
I don't have a contention with the physics. That's your job.
No, but there's no, but if you take it as they're written, there's no time. The time has no meaning at t equals 0.
Okay, agreed.
Great.
According
no
to the physics, I don't disagree with you. I highly respect that. But all of that is inductive in nature.
No, it's not.
Of course. What is it based on? Is it deductive?
It's based on observation.
Which is inductive.
Well, no, it's empirical. It's empirical. You know, the problem is, it's empirical.
Okay, well, what's empirical?
Okay. Look, I don't care. Look, the point
do you have an infinite set of observations? Mm-hmm. Have you had an infinite set of observations?
Now, if you're going to tell me I read something you wrote which really misrepresented science, you're absolutely right. If you're going to tell me science can never tell anything with absolute certainty.
Yes.
Okay.
That's
Except
throughout your book, and you say deductive.
Show me the equations in my book. Show me the equations. Okay. Are there equations?
Yes, they are.
Well, they're 1 or 2. The book's 200 pages long. Absolutely right. Also, to the fact that I want to stress one more time. That science, and I may slightly differ with my friend Richard Dawkins about this, I don't think a lot, science does not require atheism. And the proof of that is empirical. Since I believe empirical proof, I have several colleagues of mine who are very good scientists who aren't atheists. Therefore, since they're very good scientists and they're also not atheists, science doesn't require atheism. Now, people